Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go over all of the books I read in the month of May. May wasn't as strong of a reading month as some of the previous months in this year. I only read 10 books, with 4 of those being physical books, 2 ebooks, and finishing up 4 audiobooks. So not my strongest month, but it was also one of my busiest months of the year so far. I just had a lot going on with it being the end of the school year and finishing that up. So a little bit of a busy month. I also tackled some more challenging books for me. So I'm still proud of the amount of reading that I did get done and checking off some books from my list. With that being said, there were 2 books from my May TBR that I did not finish. I started The Frozen River. I did not get very far into it. I'm only 15 pages into this book. During the last week of May, especially, I was extremely busy every evening, and then when I got home, I just did not feel like reading, so I didn't get very far into this book. But the 15 pages that I've read so far are very quick, so when I do get a chance to sit down and read, I know that this one will not take me very long to finish. And then I didn't even touch Commonwealth by Ann Patchett, so this one will just get added back to my TBR shelf to be available to pick in July. If I don't get to it before then, who knows. And since we were talking about my May TBR, let's start off with the physical books in my collection that I did read. So the first one I believe that I got done was The Return of the King, which is the 3rd and final book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And then in the month of June, I will be reading The Hobbit, which is the prequel, but I'm very excited that I finished this trilogy. I did read this in my chapter a day challenge. I just found that that was my best way to get through these books. I don't love them in the same way other people did or do, but I really enjoyed reading the source material for a lot of fantasy books that I do read and really enjoy. So this is one of those things that I would classify as a classic that I wanted to read to have that source material and understand where some of these ideas and concepts are coming from. So I did enjoy my time reading this. It's just not a favorite of mine. The next book that I tackled was The Autobiography of Eleanor Roosevelt. This is a book that was very intimidating for me. I just was very intimidated to pick it up, and I'm glad I finally did. It was actually fairly easy to read. The storytelling style that she uses is very easy to follow, and it is in a story format. It isn't super linear. So there is a lot of linear concepts, at least within each of the parts. However, if a concept connects very well to something that happens in the future or in the past, those pieces of that story are brought together at that one point. So it's really easy to understand. It did take me a while to read this, almost the entire month of May. And I just kept pushing through. I would be reading this and lose track of time, but I wouldn't get very far in my page count. So it just took me a while to get through, but I'm very excited that I finally got through this book. And this was also one of my priority TBR books because it was one of 4 books that were left on my TBR at the end of 2024 that were on my 2023 TBR shelf. So I finally got through this book, and I'm very glad that I did. The next book was one I actually started in April and finished in the month of May. This was on my April TBR, and I just didn't quite get all the way through it in April. It was Out on a Limb. I really enjoyed this romance book. I just found the characters extremely relatable. It was very fun to read. I did buy this copy used because I liked the indie cover better than the traditionally published one. But I really just enjoyed the storyline and the contemporary romance aspect of it. So it was fun to step into this world, and then I got to continue in that world because I read Out of the Woods. This one I actually won in a Goodreads giveaway, and I got it before it was published. However, because I hadn't read this one, I wanted to read this one first before I read Out of the Woods. Again, stepping back into this world, these are following the best friends of the characters from Out on a Limb, and it was just a really fun time to read. It didn't take me very long to read. I think I read it in 2 days. It was just that really enjoyable, lose yourself in a different world for a short amount of time, quick read. So I enjoyed that, and I think I need to incorporate a little bit more of this into my reading, just because I've been reading a lot of really intense books, and what's left on my physical TBR is a lot of nonfiction, so it will be a summer of nonfiction reading for me, so I need to incorporate some more romance. Now let's go over the 2 ebooks that I read, and for that, I'm going to grab my handy dandy notepad here. So the ebooks that I read, the first one was one I checked out from Libby. It was 9 Month Contract by Amy Dawes. So I'll put a picture up here. Again, this was another just like cute, funny romance. It was these like mountain men type characters, and one wanted to be a dad, so he's looking for a surrogate, and that's where our main love interest comes in. So there were some times that were like laugh out loud funny. It was definitely cheesy, and they really did feel like characters and not real people, but it was fun, and I definitely would pick up another book by this author just because it was such a fun time. And then the other ebook that I finished in the month of May was The List. And this book was one of the worst books I've read this year. I borrowed it on Kindle Unlimited because it like fulfilled a good read prompt, because I am a completionist. So I really wanted to finish up the like little Goodread challenges. And as I was reading this, I really enjoyed how it started. The first couple chapters of the book were interesting and intriguing, and then I kept reading and I was like, oh, we're almost to the end of this book. I got to the 50%, and I looked and I was at the 50% mark, so I just struggled my way through the end of it, and let me tell you, it was not worth it. The attempt at a mystery reveal was ridiculous. It really didn't connect to the plot line at all, and I just found this book poorly written. The concept was interesting, which is why I think I gave it 2 stars, but I would never pick up anything else by this author just because this one was not good at all, and I just did not like pretty much anything about it other than the concept and the first couple chapters. So I would not recommend reading this book. I don't think that there is anything in it that you couldn't get from a different book. So those were the 2 ebooks that I read, and then now on to my audiobooks. So my audiobooks this month were really focused on finishing up some series that I have started. So the first one was The Case for Jamie. This is part of, I think, the Charlotte Holmes series. This is the 3rd book, and this book was kind of pointless to me. I just felt like there was so much referencing to the previous 2 books that was carrying the plot versus like having a plot in this book itself. And so it just felt very muddled, and I didn't enjoy this one very much, but I am glad that I got that one done, because then I also got to A Question of Holmes, which is the 4th and final book in that series. Again, I listened to this one on audio, and I liked this one a lot better. It felt like the plot, even though it connected to the other books, was a little bit more of a standalone, which I think is important when your whole series is based on mysteries, and when you keep referencing back to mysteries that have already been solved, it's really not as engaging. So I liked this one a lot better. I felt like there was a better character arc in this one, and I'm glad that I finally checked this series off of my list of series I'm in the middle of. And then the next one that I listened to was Catherine Howard, The Scandalous Queen by Alison Weir. This is one that had been on my TBR list for a very long time. I'm pretty sure I put this on my list when I was like obsessed with Six the Musical. And I listened to this one using my Spotify audio hours. So I enjoyed this one. I liked the way that they told the story. It was interesting to learn a little bit more about her story. I could potentially see myself listening to the other 5 books that kind of coexist in this series, but I'm not really counting this as a series I'm in the middle of. Then I listened to The Perils of Lady Catherine de Bourgh, which is the 3rd book in the Miss Tilney and Mr. Darcy series, and I thought this was the last one. However, there is another one that is coming out in June, and I feel like each one of the books, the characters get a little bit stronger, and I liked the mystery in this one. I found it very funny. It was a different take on a mystery. It wasn't just a standard murder mystery. It was like trying to solve a murder before it happened. I thought the cast of characters was really interesting. And I do think that the books in this are getting better each time. So that is all of the books that I finished in the month of May. I'm hoping June will be a very strong reading month for me, but we will see. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.